Environmental benefits of conservation agriculture. Conservation agriculture and its main impacts on the environment are going to be discussed under this. In conservation agriculture, minimum tillage, crop cover and crop rotation combine profitable agricultural production with environmental sustainability. So, the implementation of conservation agricultural techniques entails the achievement of many benefits for the environment. Let's discuss these benefits one by one. The number one, improvement of soil properties. Soils improve considerably over time when conservation agriculture techniques are put into practice. Because of not disturbing the soil, favors the proliferation of microorganisms and mesofauna. This promotes infiltration due to the galleries and networks of biopores that are formed when they move and live within the soil. Many contribution is given by the macrofauna such as earthworms, centipedes, millipedes, ants, beetles, like that. This picture shows you how the healthy soil is acting as a biological system. You will see here how these different biopores are there inside the soil, and then different living organisms are living in the soil in a harmonious way. Ultimately, this process helps to maintain the soil in a healthy way. This picture shows you when there is some plant residues or mulches and minerals, how they become wither with the activity of soil organisms. After withering of these plant residues and minerals with the activity of soil organisms, humus and clay are formed. The colloids which are formed in this process absorbs nutrients. With time, these nutrients are acting in between soil solution and colloids and exchanging, and once these nutrients move to the soil solution, they become readily available for the plant roots. Then plant roots absorb these nutrients. This process is very much happening in a comfortable way, and then ultimately the soil properties are improved. This graph shows you how the earthworm population is different in a conventionally plowed soil and no-tilled soil. The earthworms called lubricant species are lower in plowed soils, conventionally plowed soils, when compared to the no-tillage soil. And in natural ecosystem, still these lubricant species are higher in their population. Let's move to the second benefit, increasing of biodiversity. Life of any organism that lives in the soil is affected by the performance of mechanical operations on it. The diminution or elimination of tillage helps to increase growth in populations of soil microorganisms and mesofauna, both in number of species and individuals of each species. There is an increase in the level of soil organic matter as well as in aggregate stability, causing a better structuring of soils by their decomposition and the decay of crop biomass and mulch, and through the incorporation of organic matter into the soil. Similarly, populations ground nesting birds such as starling, lapwing, and wagtails, and burrowing insects as well as wildlife increase on farms practicing. In conservation agriculture, food webs and food chains are established over time due to no or little soil disturbance, availability of organic substrate, and greater crop biodiversity. Overall agrobiodiversity is greater in conservation agriculture fields, and there is greater resilience against insect pests and pathogens due to great abundance of natural enemies of pests. So you will understand by this picture how these natural enemies are acting on pests and then making a natural control of these pests. Birds and beetles and some other macrofauna acting very favorably in controlling pests of crops. Another advantage or benefit of conservation agriculture for the environment is less runoff and erosion. Keeping soils covered and protected minimizes erosion because soil cover avoids or reduces the direct impact of raindrops on the ground surface. Its energy load is dissipated without breaking up the soil aggregates and sealing the soil surface. This open structure allows water to infiltrate more readily through the surface into the well-structured soil, causing a reduction in surface runoff and followed by soil erosion. Also, a healthy, well-structured soil behaves like a sponge and can retain a maximum amount of water while facilitating through flow drainage of excess water through the network of biopores. Vegetation or biomass cover also act as a physical barrier and slows water movement downslope. Thus, decreased runoff and erosion means that there is much reduced risk of movement of agrochemicals in surface water. This graph shows you the water holding capacity of the soil when the soil depth is increases with conventional tillage operations and conservation agricultural practices. You will clearly understand the water content in the soil is always higher along the depth of the soil profile with conservation agriculture. The blue bar shows that. With conventional tillage operations, the water content of the soil is lower again along the soil profile with its depth. contamination of downstream water is another environmental benefit of conservation agriculture. Conservation agriculture reduces soil erosion and runoff, as we discussed in earlier slides. It minimizes the amount of water, microorganisms, soil particles and agrochemicals attached to soil or diluted in water reaching streams that are located downstream and eventually into rivers, estuaries and water bodies. Conservation agriculture is also contributive for lesser floods and landslides, which also can be considered as another environmental benefit. Conservation agriculture makes it more unlikely the occurrences of floods and or landslides because the soil particles are more united and formed into stable micro and macro aggregates, thus running less risk of becoming eroded. At the same time, roots of plants in undisturbed soil hold onto the soil and hold the soil together, imparting increased stability to land. Lesser greenhouse gas emissions is another important environmental benefit of conservation agriculture. Not till in the soil avoids the reaction between soil carbon and atmospheric oxygen, resulting in reduced carbon dioxide emissions. Furthermore, using less fossil fuel also implies a decrease in carbon dioxide emissions. Similarly, because improved soil drainage and the decrease in the use of mineral nitrogen fertilizer, there is a reduction in methane and nitrogen dioxide emissions too. Now let's see how conservation agriculture benefits in increasing of carbon dioxide sink effect of the soil. Plants and soils act as carbon sinks. The implementation of conservation agriculture leads to increase in return of crop residues to the soil, so that much of the carbon dioxide fixed into plants and their tissues does not go back into the atmosphere, therefore becoming part of soil and increasing the soil organic matter levels. Along with the decrease in soil disturbance, there is an increase in soil organic matter referred to as carbon sequestration. Look at this graph. This is carbon emission under conventional tillage and no tillage operations. You will see here the carbon emissions are higher under no tillage situations, which are denoted in green colors, than the conventional tillage. On surface soil or the upper soil profile, the carbon emissions are higher with no tillage operations. When the soil depth is increasing, the carbon emissions with no tillage operations are lesser with respect to the conventional tillage practices. However, this graph clearly shows the surface soil layers or the upper soil profile, which contributes actively for the plant growth and growth of plant's root system, is rich in carbon or soil carbon in no-tillage operations than conventional tillage operations. Finally, there is a better ecosystem under conventional agriculture. There are 4 types of ecosystem services could be identified. Under them, conservation agriculture contributes a lot. Provisioning ecosystem services such as food and clean water, regulating ecosystem services such as climate and pests and diseases control, and then supporting ecosystem services like cycling of nutrients and the pollination services, cultural ecosystem services like recreation with conservation agriculture, and then conserving ecosystem services like higher biodiversity controlling erosion are better ecosystem services offered under conservation agriculture. With conventional agriculture, and when you convert your land to the conservation agriculture, you will see like better ecosystem is created, and then the ecosystem services are there for whole environment and its living being in a better way with conservation agriculture. Thank you.